This video will save you a lot of time and frustration. I will share with you what we have learned in these 5 last years of research and in more than 20 years of experience that my brother and I each have. The video format is different, but it is the best way to help you improve as soon as possible. Aaron is good at every sport, especially running and cycling. But when he dives into the pool, he gets tired really fast. This is a problem because in 5 months he will do an Ironman competition. The competition begins with a 2.5-mile swim, and Aaron cannot swim more than 100 meters without stopping. Our goal is to help him swim without getting tired. As you can see, he has several problems. It is evident that he is fighting the water. We're not going to fix it immediately, but we will take him through the shortest way to success. It is tempting to tell him not to cross his arms when swimming, or to bend his elbows. Even the most detail-oriented of you will tell him not to bend the knees as much. But that won't help. We have to start with the solutions to the biggest problems that will benefit him the most in the least amount of time. First thing we have to do is to tell Aaron to push himself off the wall. This way, we remove complexity and discover basic things. These type of exercises help all levels of swimming. So don't feel that if you're more advanced than Aaron, this won't help. As you can see, he does not have a good sense of horizontal balance. He doesn't even have a small amount of CO2 tolerance. These two things make him anxious, so he moves his legs a lot and his heart rate increases as he tries to move in the water. The challenge of swimming smoothly is lost in the first 5 meters. Let's start with the tolerance of excess CO2. When you're taught to swim as an adult, it is incorrectly assumed that this concept is already mastered. In reality, the fear of excess CO2 in your lungs is one of the most primitive and powerful instincts we have. In fact, you can lose the function of the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fear, and your brain will still freak out if it detects excess CO2. With any stressful situation, like getting in a cold shower, the first thing you do is to inhale more frequently to get more oxygen. But that is a conversation for much later. For now, we will help decrease that reflex with a simple exercise. It all starts with bubbling. It consists of taking air and blowing it slowly through the nose underwater. This is very easy for Aaron, so we increase the difficulty by telling him to hold his breath for 10 seconds before releasing the air slowly through his nose. After a couple of tries, Aaron succeeds. The next thing is to hold the breath for 15 seconds and blow the air through the nose for at least 5 seconds. If it becomes too easy, let him do it 5 times, taking 1 breath before putting his head back in. After this exercise, Aaron feels calmer in the water. We go back to pushing from the wall as far as he can. We see that he still doesn't have a horizontal balance, but at least he holds his head underwater longer. The problem starts from the push. He doesn't pull his chest deep enough and his body is at a wrong angle when he pushes. To correct this, we tell Aaron to go under first and then push. He uses his arms to sink in, but he overcorrects and pushes down to the ground. He struggles to rise up to the surface and panics. Back to bubbling. Now that he's calm, he tries to adjust the angle. The problem is that his feet rise to the surface before he pushes. There should be a straight line passing through the feet, hips, and hands parallel to the ground. He now pushes properly. Now, we tell him to push harder until his feet pass the 5-meter mark. It may seem like a silly exercise to some degree, but he's learning a lot more than Denise. Denise has been trying to get her feet up for several hours because they sink too much. She believes that by kicking faster and harder, she will be able to lift her legs. She saw a video on YouTube where she was advised to squeeze her glutes, but that advice isn't working either. Denise gives up, determined to leave a very negative comment on the YouTube video. Meanwhile, Aaron discovers that it is easier to go far if he tightens his core muscles. He manages to pass with his feet the flag that marks the 5 meters and unlocks his first challenge. Now Aaron is level 13 on the Skills and Tea table. He is excited and wants to keep learning, but the best thing for now is to come back the next day. After 10 hours of writing code for a new Skills and Tea app and 5.5 hours of sleep, Aaron returns to the pool. There, he discovers that his skills have been leveled down, but we don't have time to explain everything to him today. So, after a short warm-up, he goes back to the pool to do his bubbling exercise, holding his breath for 10 seconds and releasing the air through his nose for 5 seconds. Then, he does 3 pushes from the wall until his feet pass the flags. Now, it is time to swim. Aaron tries to do 25 meters of smooth swimming, but we have to stop him again. He pushes off well, and he can take more strokes without breathing, but his knees keep sinking. Now we put a pool buoy between the knees. We do this for 2 reasons. to get his knees up and to stop him from moving his legs too much. Although we already told Aaron to not move his legs as much, and he understood, his body wants to keep moving them instinctively. So, with the pool buoy between the knees, he is creating the muscle memory to tell his body that he can swim without having to move his legs. He does 425s that way. He leaves the pool buoy and tries to swim without moving his legs as much. A little better at first, but he quickly gets back to the same thing. Obviously, muscle memory is not created that quickly. Now we take the exercise to the next level of difficulty. The pool buoy between the feet. This helps him tighten his feet, but he cannot keep it in place. He tries it several times until he succeeds. As you can see, Aaron doesn't give up without a good fight. He tries to swim freestyle again, but it is now worse than before. His feet are not coordinated and he can't keep them close to the surface of the water. So we take him back to the wall and tell him to push and just do 3 strokes without breathing. This time he keeps his legs high in the water, but he doesn't understand why. The reason is simple. The same thing happens on a bicycle. When you go faster, it is easier to keep your balance. Since Aaron has enough speed when he pushes off the wall, he manages to keep the balance for a few seconds. He takes the opportunity to take 3 strokes without breathing. He gets excited and wants to swim the whole length of the pool, but as soon as he takes a breath, his technique goes back to where we started. So we tell him to do 5, 6, and up to 7 strokes without breathing after the push. This begins to give him the feeling of moving through the water in a good position. The next thing is to teach him the correct breathing technique. 88% of the body weight in freestyle is underwater at all times. Keeping that 12% of your body weight above while keeping the rest of your body close to the surface is quite difficult. With the whole head out, the percentage increases from 12 to 16% approximately, which means that it is 35% more difficult to swim breathing with the whole head out than with only half of the head out. If you don't believe me, you can try the exercise called Tarzan and see for yourself. Aaron's problem is that in his mind, he has the image of elite swimmers swimming above the surface. It is true that they get to a speed that allows them to be more above the surface, but even they have most of their body underwater. For an Ironman long distance swim, it is not the speed or the technique that we want to achieve. It is best to find the most efficient way to swim through the water and not above it. To correct Aaron's breathing, we tell him to keep half of his face in the water when he breathes. But there is a gap between the words he understands and what his body is used to doing. And if you give the body a choice, it will always do what is familiar. The next challenge to improve breathing technique is to do 25 meters side kick. And when breathing, take only part of the face out. The problem now is not the horizontal balance, but to keep balance on the side of the body. It's not easy either to stay close to the surface while on your side. We will first have to correct the kick before we can correct the breath. Skilla has a great kick. If you look closely at what Skilla does, we can see that the knees bend a little. The kick starts at the hips and the movement goes through the leg all the way to the toes like a whip. Then the whole leg goes up extended, while one leg goes down, the other goes up. That was way too much information for Aaron to apply in the pool. For now, the best thing is to stretch a little and have enough time for breakfast. We're working on what we think is the best mobile app for swimmers, but it is a secret and is not ready to be used yet. Would you like to be one of the first users to try it? Subscribe here if you don't want to miss the next video, or click here if it's already available. See you there. Swim fast.